Hi, it's Larold. I previously talked about some farm strategies that I would recommend for players at 0 to low budget, maybe ranging even up into the mid budget. And in this video, I'm going to talk about a couple more strategies that I would recommend for players who are in that mid budget range and trying to transition beyond. But before I do, don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, I have a little bit of info here for all three of these strategies, just kind of an overview here. And that is that I'm doing all of this on the Earth Shatter Berserker, so I am a little bit leaning toward red altars because this build is just better for them. And I'm also doing this all in regular maps that I've like chiseled and alked, and just regular style maps. 8 mod corrupted maps would be better. All of these strategies scale with quant and rarity, they scale with pack size, they are kind of aimed at both maximizing currency generation and gold generation. Saw a Reddit post earlier today that said, like, here's how to make 300,000 gold per hour doing low-level bozo maps, and like, I like that idea, but I would much rather make 300,000 gold per hour while also making a bunch of currency instead of doing like a low-level strategy that only generates gold. And that's what I was aiming for with this. Now, these strategies are all kind of focused on juicing tier 16s with the intention of getting the currency and gear to push into tier 17s, or just like having fun and content that isn't overtuned and brutal. But you can do these strategies in tier 17s as well. Alright, so this is the first farming strategy. It is harvest, and it is specifically a Cornucopia harvest setup. There are a couple of options you can go with for harvest. It's very flexible. Personal favorite, it is something I talked about a fair amount in Necropolis League, and you know, it's back. It hasn't really changed all that much, so just to kind of show off pretty much the basics of what I'm doing here, any harvest setup, starting with the scarabs, any harvest setup is going to use Harvest Scarab of Doubling. It does exactly what you would think it does. It makes it so that all the monsters have 200% life, and then also drop double life force. So double life force, makes sense. Good name, good scarab, must have for literally any harvest scarab strategy or harvest strategy at all. And then this is where we kind of divert away from a couple of the possible harvest setups, and I am using Harvest Scarabs of Cornucopia. Now, you don't have to. They are a little expensive, but that is kind of the point here, right? This isn't the bare bones super cheapo depot strategy. This is something that's a little bit more juicy. And Harvest Scarabs of Cornucopia are definitely juicy. They will make it so that there are harvest rank 4 monsters in all of your harvests. Sometimes they will be in the same patch, the same, like, you know, a blue and a purple will be next to each other, and there will be a boss there in each of them. That is unfortunate. I ran just like 5 maps, just kind of as a sample, make sure everything still works the same. And I did run into that, I think, twice, and both times I didn't get lucky and have one of the bosses be preserved to do again. You know, it is what it is ultimately, but even so, in the span of doing that, in the span of killing, I guess in 5 maps, I killed like 12 or 13 bosses. A couple of them had a buddy with them. Just in the span of doing that, I got 4 Sacred Crystallized Life Force, or technically Sacred Blossoms, so I did kill Oshabi 4 times as well. I think doing all of those 5 maps only took like 30, 40 minutes. I like, it was literally 45 minutes of real world time, but I kind of stopped and took some notes and fed the cat, and I think, you know, this isn't the fastest build in the world by any stretch. So if you were maybe a little more locked in, zooming a little faster, you probably could get all that done in about half an hour. Maybe, something like that. So ultimately, that is kind of the approach I've gone with here, Cornucopia setup. And then that's kind of the only 2 scarabs you really want for harvest. The only other one that's even an option just makes the Sacred Grove spawn, and you get that from the tree, which I'll show in a second. So to fill out the other scarabs, I just went in kind of a gold direction, just generic map juicing. So I put 2 Scarab of Adversaries in because they're cheap. Each of them adds 8 rares and then 4 packs. So 16 rares added from these 2 scarabs, and then I went with Monstrous Lineage for 40% magic pack size. You could do Influencing Scarab of Hordes. This is a scarab that was previously very cheap, 40% increased influenced monster pack size. The problem is that people have realized that these are really good, especially if you're doing red map farming, red altar farming, and so these have gone up in price a bit, so I opted not to put those in. And then you could also do Hunted Traders. Again, this is another good option. It just adds a bunch of dudes in, just generic guys, stuff to kill. And that is kind of the point of all of this stuff after the 2 Harvest Scarabs. It's just more stuff to kill in the map. You could do this in any map. I did these in dudes. You could do them in literally any map you like. I scried Mesa's good div card set onto Dunes, so now I'm running Dunes a lot. It's a nice, simple, open layout, and I think just for fun, I did get a couple of great crowns that I haven't ID'd yet, so I thought I would just go ahead and ID those. I don't know that Iron Grip and added lightning damage is anything, and Vile Toxins and level 8 Trap, that seems bad. Fine. This is what you expect with the Forbidden Shakos. Not very good. And then the Abhorrent Interrogation and the other one those are like 1 chaos. And then I also got this like 8 chaos div card, something like that. So just to look at the tree, this is the tree that I've been playing around with here. And we are getting 90% chance to get the Sacred Grove. So with 8% from just being the generic amount that you normally have to spawn, that puts us at 98%, and then we're taking several blocker nodes, so that puts us over 100. We could potentially, we have 3 blocker nodes here and 2 here, we could potentially take 1 more, and that would put us at 110%, so we could drop a point here and be at 100% exactly, but I don't really want to block any of these. Ultimatum has a really expensive scarab. Light has some pretty expensive scarabs. I obviously don't want to block Harvest since I'm trying to run it. And Legion just has generically useful scarabs, so I didn't block them. I'm not running them because I'm not juicing them, but I felt like, swapping this point here to block Legion and block Legion scarabs dropping just didn't seem very good. Boy, that sure is a lot of notification spam, huh? So in terms of the passive tree, mainly we're taking all the harvest nodes, taking every harvest node. The one thing that we're not doing here, and what I mean when I talk about harvest having a lot of options, is we're not taking crop rotation. So I'm just coming over and taking 1 line in here because yellow is a lot less common than blue or purple. And so I just, blue is a little bit less expensive than purple right now. Yellow is by far the most expensive of the life forces and also the least common plants to grow. So you want to make sure that you're having all 3 plants in all of your harvests in each map, so you can get those rank 4 bosses on all 3 different colors in your maps, ideally. And so I reduce the chance of growing blue plants just to increase, kind of passively, the chance of getting yellow plants. And then I didn't take crop rotation. You could do crop rotation. I like that. I actually prefer it, but it is a very different strategy, very feast or famine. You kind of RNG, try to like Tower of Hanoi build up 1 set of plants as opposed to normal harvest, which is just very, very consistent, smooth, safe, and very easy brain dead stuff. Crop rotation, you actually have to kind of like plan ahead and then get lucky as well. Now, harvest scales with quant and rarity, so we're taking all of the map mod effect in the tree, every single node that's possible. We're taking all the quant and rarity as well. And then because we have all of that, I'm just taking a bunch of scarab nodes, pretty much all of the scarab nodes you possibly can. If you wanted to play around with adding something else in, like Rogue Exile, something that's super low investment, you could do that. Shrines, whatever. I would just drop some of the scarab nodes in order to do that. I just felt like, hey, there's a way to add a bit of extra juice. I didn't count any of that in when I was looking at like profits from this. I just have a very basic list of profits. So before I started this, I sold off all of the life force I had. I had less than 100 of any of these life force remaining. And in the span of 5 maps, I made somewhere between 3.5 and 4 divines just in life force. And then I also emptied out my gold beforehand, and I have over 100,000 gold in the span of 5 maps. So harvest is not great for making gold. I would say probably 90,000 of that gold came from the maps themselves, came really from these scarabs down here more than harvest. But it's not nothing, and I think that, zooming through those maps, making probably something like 8 to 10 divines per hour. It depends on how much currency you're getting from everything else. Ultimately, I did go with the blue altars because I wanted to push quant and rarity bonuses on the blue altars, and that is something I recommend. You want to get as much quant and rarity as you can manage to live through taking the downsides of those blue altars, as that will result in more life force dropping. I never really want to say a number on profits, because if I say you will make 10 divines per hour, all that has to happen is people start doing more harvest and the price of the brick go up, and now the value of harvest has changed because it's a living game with a breathing economy that is impacted by other people's actions and wants and desires, and so actually giving any sort of hard and fast number is, it's never going to be reliable for anybody, even if RNG wasn't a factor, which it also is. But with all that being said, pretty good. Don't know exactly what the number is. 5 to 10 divines per hour sounds right. And then finally, I think the last thing, just before I forget it, is I just took quantity on the map device. You can take whatever you like. Anarchy can work, especially if you invest a little bit into rogue exiles on the passive tree, but I just literally went with quantity to get more stuff for 0 extra cost. So the next strategy is one that I've already talked about before, but I have made a few adjustments, some changes, and just like some developments in terms of my scarab setup, and wanted to give it a little bit more detail and kind of give it another shake, and that is red Altar Strongboxes. This is a pretty great strategy. I mean, I think this is literally something you could just say, this is my strategy for the rest of the league, lock in and do this and be very happy. The profitability on this is pretty great. The very first thing I did when I logged in was I saw I was out of gold because I was away from my computer quite a bit longer than I expected to be today. And I saw I was out of gold. I immediately started doing some red Altar Strongbox maps. The very first map, the very first Strongbox threw 2 divines at me. I have gotten the Fiend card from red Altar monsters. That's like 9 divines at the time that I got it. I've gotten a lot of raw divines from Strongboxes and from red Altars. I have gotten, I mean, quite a lot of just random valuable stuff. And in the past, you know, I kind of would run into this thought process of like, you go to Wealthy Exile or whatever website you're using, you hit refresh, you see the value go up, and you're like, okay, great, but then the divine orb value hasn't gone up, the chaos number hasn't gone up, and you go, am I actually any richer? Have I actually gotten any more currency out of the deal? But the thing is that with the currency exchange, being able to just go, okay, I have 40 Harbinger scarabs that I'm not going to use, I can very easily liquidate all those into chaos. I have 50 of this other scarab that I'm not going to use, I can very easily liquidate all that into chaos. And so I've had this situation a lot where I may be only at like 400 chaos, 300 chaos, something, you know, quite low. And then I kind of look at my scarab tab and I go, oh, I have the huge host of stuff. And so I pull like a 50,000 gold out of Johan, out of the town, and I sit there and I just sell a bunch of scarabs for a while, and now suddenly I have like 2,000-3,000 chaos, and I'm ready to kind of resupply for whatever strategy I'm doing. This is also a strategy that generates a lot of gold as well, so I'm actually quite positive on this. I think it has been kind of, thus far, strategy of the league. Obviously, there's more room to play around and experiment with other stuff, but this has been pretty great. So in terms of the scarabs, I'm using triple ambush scarab. I'm just using 3 regular ambush scarabs. I'm also using ambush on the map device. And then you get a strongbox guaranteed out of your Atlas passive tree. So that's 19 guaranteed per map, which is pretty great. Now you have a couple of options for your other scarabs. I really prefer to just go kind of the cheaper route for tier 16s and use ambush scarab of potency, which increases the explicit mods on all your strongboxes by 75%. Now what this does is it makes them drop more stuff. Not really very complicated, but these are only worth like 3 chaos each. They're quite cheap. And then hidden compartments makes it so you have a 15% chance for your strongboxes to be openable again. This does stack with the Atlas passives that grant you 2%, 2%, 2%, and 10%, so 16%. So instead of 16%, you get 31% chance to be openable again. This is quite a lot. This winds up being, this adds about 20% more strongbox openings into your maps, and because we are also speccing into the extra additional pack chance, all of these small passive nodes down here, we're just giving ourselves a lot more shots at monsters to kill, a lot more gold to come from those guys, a lot more XP to come from those guys. You know, the one, I guess, downside of ambush is that they do ambush you, so it can be a little rippy if you're not prepared when you click that strongbox for a massive amount of guys to jump out and try to kick your ass and take your lunch money. You know, you might get killed. I've had that happen a couple of times, but other than that, I would say it's been really, really effective. Now, why not run Ambush Scarab of Containment? This is like 130 chaos. It's really strong. It makes it so that all of the monsters in the map get turned into strongboxes, and then that combines with things like hidden compartments and potency to make those much stronger, make you get many more bites at the apple, so to speak. And then there's also Ambush Scarab of Discernment. This makes it so that strongboxes are the rarer varieties, but if I look at the currency exchange here, discernment scarabs are They're like 28 to 30 chaos each, depending on how many you're trying to buy. As you can see, there's a fairly large stock available at about 30 chaos each, and then these containments are like 130 chaos each. You're not going to make up 130 chaos per map in tier 16s by doing containments, and so these have really been priced into being something that's only for tier 17s. Similarly, I think discernment scarabs are kind of right on the cusp, you know, with like looking at, for example, potencies being less than 2 chaos, hidden compartments being 2.5, 3 chaos, and then ambush scarabs being anywhere from like 8 to 10 to 12 chaos, depending on when you're buying and what the supply is looking like. I think that ambush scarabs are all really justifiable. I definitely feel like I make up more than 2 chaos per strongbox easily. So that more than compensates for the price of the ambush scarabs. Very, very easy to overperform that, especially with hidden compartments and potency kind of kicking in. Discernment helps, but I don't know that I'm getting 30 chaos per map out of it in tier 16s, whereas in tier 17s, especially if you're combining with containment, there's sort of a force multiplier there, where absolutely you are. So for what it's worth, I think that these two are probably not worth using in tier 16s, which is sort of more what this video is aimed at, but for tier 17s, I absolutely would use these, and then I would probably use them in place of regular ambush scarabs. You know, by converting all of the map monsters into strongboxes, you're gonna have like 40, 50 strongboxes in a tier 17 map, and so adding another 5 has much lower returns than getting that chance to reopen 50 different strong boxes, or even just like stronger explicit mod effect on all the strong boxes. So just to look at the tree, this is the version I'm going with for the 132 bonuses available. You know, I think the thing that I would drop if I were like a little short of that, say I hadn't done the feared, is I would probably just drop the blocker nodes. I'm just blocking Delirium and Ritual because those scarabs kind of stink. It would be nice to come over here and get Breach and Abyss because those also aren't great, but it's a bit of a stretch. It's like 5 points to get those two. And I would rather just focus on getting more scarabs, more ambush scarabs, since those are valuable, all of the ambush nodes, and then I'm taking shrine nodes, all of the shrine nodes. You can drop them if you want and take those blocker nodes, maybe come over and take Shaping the Skies and get more maps if you want. That is certainly a fine approach, but I'm really just going with like all of the red mods, the increased pack size on Searing Exarch, since we are leaning in pretty hard on the Searing Exarch altar farm, and then all of the ambush stuff, and then just everything that buffs either map mod effect or quantity and rarity, and then a little bit of map drop stuff here, and that's pretty much all there is to this tree, really. Now, in terms of the profit per hour, I don't know. Honestly, it is RNG on top of RNG on top of RNG. It's sort of like asking, you know, will I be lucky? Sure, absolutely. I guarantee it. You will be lucky. I don't really know how much I've made. There have been hours where I've made well over 10 divines an hour doing this strategy. And then there have been times where I maybe break even in some maps. I would say in general, I've probably been making, you know, 5 to 7 divines per hour. Something like that feels about right. Whenever I'm actually kind of locking down and really running maps pretty hard, it's probably a little better. But ultimately, I did just 5 maps in a row, kind of to at least look at the gold that I made from those. And I guess I did buy a couple of scarabs here, so I think this is actually a little under what I made, but about 120,000 gold in the span of 5 Dunes maps just running this scarab setup. Triple ambush, potency, hidden compartments, and then ambush on the map device and red altars, obviously. About 24,000 gold per map. Not too bad. All things considered, I think that's pretty good with not leaning into any pack size scarabs. I think that's pretty solid. And here I have the final strategy that I've come up with. I call it Back to Basics 2. Back to Basic. I really liked Back to Basics. I liked just kind of running into a map with a bunch of guys in it. No real league mechanics to deal with. Kill everything, loot all the good stuff, and get out. I liked that a lot, and this kind of brings that back. So the structure that this is built off of is really this 2-punch combo of Horned Scarab of Tradition and Horned Scarab of Nemesis. And then everything else is kind of built around building that up. So Horned Scarab of Tradition brings back the old interaction of rare monsters functioning like loot goblins, where they would convert all of their drops into a type of a thing. As this says, all rare and unique monsters in the area have dropped items transformed by a reward modifier. So reward modifiers are the things that you see on Legion or on, heist chests. It'll say, it'll be big currency icon or something like that. Now, these are hidden. And so, for example, just in doing some maps of this, I saw a random unique or a random rare mob dropped just a massive amount of 6 links. I've seen some drop scarabs. Obviously, tons of drop currency. Maps, seen lots and lots of just like 15 maps exploding out of a rare when it dies. Now, the best way to really juice this is to get more quant rarity on your rare and unique monsters, and one of the best ways to get more quant rarity is just to have more modifiers on those monsters. So Horned Scarab of Nemesis adds more modifiers to the rares in the map, and there you go. That gives you just like a instant turbo boost of a bunch of extra juice into your map by having these 2 scarabs. And then once again, we're using 2 Scarab of Adversaries to throw 16 more rare monsters into the map. And then I like Hunted Traders just because it adds a lot of guys. We definitely could add something else instead, but I felt like this is a really cost-effective option. It costs 1 or 2 chaos, something like that, and it adds like hundreds of guys into the map. Really nothing bad about that. Now, I did play around with an alternative strategy instead of doing this sort of Horned Scarab combo because they can be a little expensive. They're definitely subject to price fluctuation. I did play around with using Influencing Scarab of Hordes and Scarab of Monstrous Lineage, so 40% increased pack size on magic packs and 40% increased influence packs. This worked. It was less juicy, less explosive, but then also there was less potential of kind of running up against a wall made out of a rare monster. So I could see kind of positives and negatives on this. I think that just taking this more pack size, these 2 scarabs, and combining that with the adversaries and hunted traders can work very well as like a very easy, smooth approach that is lower cost because these are much cheaper than the 2 horned scarabs. You won't get the same juicy currency explosions, but you still get a pretty good return on your investment. And again, very smooth, comfy playstyle. So now let me take a look at the tree here, and it is pretty similar to the Strongbox tree, although obviously not taking any Strongbox nodes. We're getting some scarab blocking on some just low value League of Mechanics scarabs. I am coming over and taking the 2 map wheels, shaping the skies and shaping the mountains. And then I'm taking all the map mod effect I can, all the quant rarity in the map, or the Atlas passive tree that I can, basically all the scarab nodes I can. The only thing that I could say maybe I would change, maybe would be worth changing out here, is I've taken all of the shrine nodes, all of them, even the small ones, just to kind of make this be faster. By taking this whole wheel, all that glitters, you give yourself a chance of getting covetous shrines, which is a big quant rarity bonus, that one of the few remaining quant rarity bonuses that you can still have, and that will multiply onto all the rares and uniques that you kill in the time that you have that buff active. I've also wanted to make it last longer. But you could drop all of this shrine stuff, and you could just take just this whole line of small passives here that give you 3% increased scarabs a piece. It's 4 points here, 4 points here, and 5 points here. That is 13 points. So that's potentially 36% increased scarab drop chance that you could get instead of the shrine nodes. But I like shrine. So by and large, we're really just trying to skew toward ambush scarabs. Those generally are the best. Ambush scarabs, ultimatum scarabs. I did get an ultimatum scarab of whatever the good one is called. I can't remember the name off the top of the dome, but this one, catalyzing. I did get one of those just in the last couple of maps here. And I really like this strategy. It's very simple. It does remind me a lot of Back to Basics. I am still doing a lot of the same stuff I had mentioned before with the Strongbox setup of taking all the pack size I can on red altars. And that is really because my build is just better at doing red altars. I think if I were to actually recommend this strategy, like max value and all, I think I would go blue altars. I probably will put that as the tree. In fact, I will put that as the tree that's in the description. So don't ask why it says blue, why it's blue altars in the tree that I link, but it's red altars in the video. It means you weren't listening, and we're gonna make fun of you for that. Ultimately, I think this is a really fun strategy, super simple. I like this a lot. As for the map device, I have just kind of doubled down on this tiny little bit of investment I put into Rogue Exiles here. I took Ruckus just in case it procs, it's kind of fun. And then I'm just doing Anarchy on the map device because that's 3 uniques that can be converted by Horned Scarab of Tradition. And I don't really think anything else here is better. Torment is quite bad now. That is why I haven't taken Exiled Will. They kind of gutted Torment as a juicing mechanic this league, so throwing that onto all your Rogue Exiles makes them very dangerous, but it doesn't really make them much more rewarding, so I just don't like that anymore at all. You could do Domination, maybe that's the move, instead of Anarchy. Yeah, that probably is a better move, but I was sort of hedging my bets about whether I wanted to commit to doing Domination entirely. So I would say, I guess, if you're doing Domination, full committing like I am in the tree, then you know what? Yeah, I would also take Domination on the map device. Otherwise, I would say spec out a Domination, take the 13 points and just more Scarabs or increase Scarabs, and then stick to Anarchy. I think that's probably the best approach. Now, as for the map you want to run, you can do this on any map. I like Dunes, so Dunes is good. I wouldn't do Dunes unless you've managed to scry a better set of div cards onto it, though. Something like either the div cards from Underground Sea or Mesa, and then spam run Dunes. And then as for the Prophet, it's kind of anyone's guess. You get all kinds of random stuff. I've gotten so many different 6 links. I've gotten a couple of fractured items. I think this fractured item, I think this one as well. 7% additional PDR on a Legion plate. Tier, what is that, 2 life? High tier 2 life roll on a Conqueror's helmet. Like a lot of different 6 links. Corrupted 6 links are from the Strongboxes, but just a lot of random 6 links hanging around that are uncorrupted from this. So I really like this a lot. I will definitely be leaning in more on this going forward. It's pretty fun. Very low effort. Like you're in and out in 3 minutes. I like that aspect of it a lot. And then maybe best of all, I did 5 maps and just kind of recorded the gold from them just to see. And I got 151,000 gold in 5 maps. So about 30,000 gold a map. And these were maps that I was in and out of in like 3 to 4 minutes. Maybe 4 minutes if I was a little slower. Like I think this map had a Temp Chains aura on it. So, even if we're saying like 4 minutes a map, 60 divided by 4 times, let's say 30,000 gold per map, that's like 450,000 gold an hour, potentially much better if you're on a build that's faster than mine, which is probably not that hard to do. So you might be able to rock like 500, 600,000 gold an hour with this strategy, which sounds pretty awesome. Anyways, I like this one a lot. This is definitely very fun, something I will be leaning into more going forward. All right, I think that wraps things up. Thanks for watching and have fun farming. Bye.